The governor of Michigan in the hot seat so much this week that she suddenly decided to open businesses up early. Why? Because she got caught. She got caught red-handed in yet another do as I say, not as I do scenario. This one was especially bad. Wait until you see it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. It's so good to have you here. I am Trish. A quick reminder, check the links below to find more intel on all of these stories I'm talking about. Plus, find out how you can support the show. Thank you so much to all the wonderful folks that are in the Trish Regan private group on Facebook. And also, I want to point out we have a new store, Trish Regan Store. You can check out the latest items there. But first of all, can you believe this? Can you believe this woman, Gretchen Whitmer, who has perhaps the most draconian sense of how she should govern of any governor? Well, maybe except for Gavin Newsom. Well, anyway, she's even not able to follow her own rules, of course, right? That's usually how it is. She's preventing her constituents, of course, at various times from traveling to their own second homes in the state. That was one of her big moves. She insists you got to wear a mask always out in public, even when you're walking down the street. And she'd insisted that only 6 people could be seated at a restaurant table, indoors or outdoors, didn't matter. Well, guess what? Guess what? I want you to see this picture right here. Take a look at this. That's Gretchen. What do you know? Gretchen Whitmer, the governor, out having some fun with her friends, eating some pizza. Someone in that party kind of goofed, right? Because they posted that picture on social media. And uh-oh, what do you know? People noticed. You know, that's social media, right? It reminds me of the time. Remember when the Chicago teacher was on the beach in Puerto Rico? Oh, we have that picture too, I think. I want you to see this. Take a look. That's that nice Chicago teacher on the beach after, she couldn't go to class because it was just too dangerous. Remember that one? And there she was traveling by plane to a lovely beach. No problemo. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Social media. Oh, it can be the death of some people, I guess. It can certainly come back to haunt you, as that teacher might say. And as Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, for now anyway, we'll see how long that lasts, as she might admit. Anyway, she responded, Governor Whitmer responded with, what do you know? Changing the rules in Michigan, finally. Beginning this week, you can now have more than 6 people at a table. Woohoo! I want you to hear her half-hearted mea culpa.
So I'll just say this, I put out a statement. I wrote that statement. It is, it was an honest mistake, and I have apologized for it. I think that we have specifically not gone forward and penalized businesses that are trying to do the right thing. It's those that have flouted and put people's safety at risk that, are the most concerning. But I don't know that there's a lot more for me to add at this point in time other than those former Spartans, or I guess you're a Spartan for life, who know the establishment should be aware that it's now a restaurant and they have pretty good pizza.
Huh? Well, at least she complimented their pizza. I guess because she can have the pizza, right? But other people can't, at least at a table for 6. Here's the problem. Gretchen Whitmer, like many on the left, including Gavin Newsom out in California, they have a real problem, it seems, living by their own rules. Lori Lightfoot in Chicago as well. In Gretchen's case, there was that time last summer when her husband wanted to go for a boat ride, but the state was shut down and he couldn't get his boat. So what did he do? He name dropped. Do you know who I am to the marina in order to get his boat out of storage? That didn't go over well. And then there was Gavin Newsom attending that birthday celebration at the $300 a plate French Laundry Napa Valley restaurant with no mask, even after mandating that the state end such gatherings. And of course, you always had to have a mask. And then there was, this one was great, the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, closing all hair salons, all personal beauty appointments in homes last year. She said getting your roots done is not essential. But she did allow her own personal hairdresser to do her hair. And when she was asked about it and the double standard, she had this to say.
We are trying to do everything we can to emphasize the messages around social distancing, washing your hands, staying at home. But I, as an elected official in the public face of the city, need to make sure that I am out there and visible through this crisis.
Because you see, she's got to look good for her peeps, the public face of the city. She's got to have those roots done. I'm sorry, come on. Meanwhile, this one takes the cake. I can't leave this story alone without talking about the modern day Marie Antoinette, the let them eat ice cream of the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi. Remember when her whole city was shut down for COVID? Masks were required everywhere. You couldn't go and get your hair done. Well, not only did she get her beauty salon to open up, special for her, she went in without a mask and had this to say.
Just have my hair washed. I don't wear a mask when I'm washing my hair. Do you wear a mask when you're washing your hair? I always have a mask. I always have a mask. For me, for the people I'm encountering, but for my family as well. But I don't wear it when I'm getting my hair washed. And that picture is when I just came out of the bowl of getting my hair washed.
And when I'm on TV, because she's giving a press conference with no mask as well. I'm sorry. You know what, Nancy Pelosi? I had just been to the hair salon the day before. Mine had just opened up. And guess what? I got my hair washed and I wore a mask because that was the requirement. And I'm a lawful person. Clearly, you don't believe you have to actually play by the rules. I mean, the moral of the story here is that these lawmakers that we supposedly put our trust in to come up with the laws, well, they don't think that they need to live by those laws. They get to live by a whole different set of rules than the rest of America. And that's inherently what is so wrong here. Gretchen Whitmer's hypocrisy is just the latest and greatest in a series of disasters for all of these lawmakers on the left. But you know what? This is the takeaway here. It needs to stop. And the only way it stops is if enough of us say something, if enough of us speak up. Another reason to go to TrishIntel.com, sign up for my newsletter. You know how the mainstream media is trying to clamp down on anything they don't like. All the more reason why it's critical that we be able to communicate together, because yeah, that needs to stop. Coming up next, why do the most dangerous cities in America keep trying to get rid of the police? So I want to know, why is it that the most dangerous cities in the United States of America keep trying to get rid of the police? I mean, they're kind of the ones that need the police the most, right? The city that recently slashed its police budget has seen a pretty bloody, horrific, horrible year so far, including 47 people shot just in the last few days over the weekend. That's in Chicago. The weekend shootings come after Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot passed strict, controversial regulations, against police officers, wait till you hear what they are, and cut the police budget for Chicago, despite the fact that they're dealing with all this violent crime. And police advocates say, you know what, this was necessary. They had to do it. They had to do it because they wanted to be able to allow for anonymous complaints against officers. The only problem is, what officer wants to have that job? They say it's making it pretty much impossible for cops to actually do their jobs. I mean, talking about a thankless position right now. Let me read to you a quote. There's over 2,500 officers who are 50 years old right now with over 20 years of service who can start collecting a pension tomorrow. And I don't know what to tell them to keep them here. There's no reason to keep them anymore. This is the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police President John Catanzara. And he's saying, and I quote, they have just made policing in this city, Catanzara, let me correct myself on that. They've just made policing in this city and state near impossible. You literally just handed the keys to the criminals. Wow, I mean, it's a powerful quote. And I would say this really and truly is the truth right now, in that who wants this gig? Who wants this job? I mean, if I were a police officer, I'd be looking for a new job today. And if you have any chance of retiring, of course you're going to do it, right? Because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And you get, people after you in places like Chicago. Meanwhile, think about LA. They're totally schizophrenic out there because first they cut the police budget right around the election following all those protests, right? BLM protests. And they cut the budget by $150 million. And now, what do you know? They just announced they're increasing the budget because they have to hire 250 more officers because, oh yes, it turns out you do actually need the police. Charles Barkley knows that.
To really be careful when we, I hear these fools on TV talking about defund the police and things like that. We need police reform and prison reform and things like that. Because you know who ain't gonna defund the cops? White neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods. So that notion they keep saying that, I'm like, wait a minute, we just gonna leave, who are black people supposed to call? Ghostbusters when we have crime in our neighborhoods?
He took a lot of heat for that comment. A lot of heat. But he's calling it like it is. And he keeps calling it like it is, because just recently he talked about what this defund the police movement is really and truly about, and it's politics. Listen to Barkley here.
I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people, but we're so stupid following our politicians, whether they are Republicans or Democrats. And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We're all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
He gets it, right? Sounds like he understands the fundamentals of Marxism. To me, you divide by class, and when that doesn't work, you divide by race. Divide by gender, too. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so disgusted with California and with Illinois and New York, for that matter, right now. But credit where credit's due, right? The governor of Florida is funding the police. Imagine that. Giving out $1,000 bonus checks. Watch Governor DeSantis here.
So I thought it was important to recognize the service, to recognize the sacrifice. And I asked the legislature in this legislative session, we need to do bonuses for law enforcement. Some want to defund the police. We're funding the police and then some. And that's what we're here today to say.
It's great to see. You know what? Police officers deserve a break. They deserve that extra $1,000, and they deserve the support of their local government. You know who could learn a thing or two or three from Ron DeSantis? That might be Comrade de Blasio in New York City. He's so proud right now. Wait till you see this. He is so proud that the kids in New York City are finally going to go back to school next year. Come on. I'm on it. Comrade de Blasio, he's got some big news there in the Big Apple. He's so excited about this, he can hardly contain his excitement, and he definitely can't watch his hands. Look at this.
It's time to do things the way they were meant to be done. All the kids in the classroom together, getting a great education from educators who care, staff members who care, the school community coming back fully. So I'm very pleased to announce New York City public schools will fully reopen in September. Every single child will be back in the classroom.
At first, I actually thought he was doing some sign language or something there himself. Anyway, Comrade de Blasio making that big, big news. He's so excited, and he wants us to praise him for that? For getting kids back in school next fall? I mean, hasn't Florida actually been in school like from the beginning of this year? Comrade de Blasio should be ashamed because kids lost all last spring and all of this past year thanks to overzealous lawmakers like him that were too in bed with the teachers' unions to actually do their jobs as lawmakers and get our children back into school. You know, this didn't happen in private schools. Private schools, they were back in session. It didn't happen out in the affluent suburbs. No, those schools were back in action, and yet we have an entire generation that has lost out big time, especially in these urban areas. I want to share with you some new research that was actually quoted in the New York Times, not exactly a right-leaning publication, but it suggests that by September of next year, most students will have fallen behind where they would have been if they had stayed in classrooms. Duh. With some losing the equivalent of a full year's worth of academic gains. Of course. And so wouldn't you think that Bill de Blasio would come out and say something a little more revolutionary like, hey, we decided to offer makeup classes this summer. Everybody can come back to school this summer. Or, hey, we decided to make sure everybody could repeat. Anybody who wants to repeat a school year can repeat a school year, right? Because we know that you guys lost out. And remember, it's those kids in the inner city of America, right? In the inner cities, places like Harlem, places like parts of the Bronx and Brooklyn and Queens that are most affected, surely Chicago and LA. These are the kids that get hurt the most. Again, private schools figure it out. Affluent suburbs figure it out. And you know what? If you have money right now and a family, guess what? I bet you're leaving New York City. You're going to some nice public school in the country where unions do not have the same hold over the politicians. So this is how messed up it is. And there will be big gaps, big socioeconomic achievement gaps that they are completely a result of bad lawmakers. You know what? It's ridiculous for de Blasio to be so proud of this, but clearly it's all relative, right? Out in Chicago, they're not sure if they're going to be back in school by fall. They're too busy defunding the police, right? Don't forget, everyone, check out the news store online at trishregan.store. Make sure you support the show if you can by joining my private group on Facebook, Trish Regan's private group, and make sure you keep going back to trishintel.com for all of your news. This is the most important news. I want you to sign up for the free newsletter because it's critical that we stay in touch. They're doing everything they can to make sure they silence voices that do not agree with the status quo. And you know, I'll never agree with the status quo. Good to see you. I'll see you back here tomorrow.